you very much, Joe. So we'll begin with reading the verses, right?
Yes, we can do the verses. Then
Okay. So maybe we can have like up to 3 volunteers to read the verses. And is my screen visible?
yes, Prabhu, your screen is visible. How many verses are there? Maybe you want to split
So
it.
there are 19 verses.
Acha.
Uh,
So maybe 10 and 9, two devotees can read.
So
Yeah.
Megha has raised her hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Megha, you want to start with the first verse?
Yes, Prabhu. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Sri Shukadev Swami said, as soon as the Lord was born as the son of Maharaj Nabhi, he manifested symptoms of Supreme Lord, such as marks on the bottom of his feet, the flag, thunderbolt, etc. The son was equal to everyone and very peaceful. He could control his senses and his mind, and possessing all opulence. He did not hanker for material enjoyment. Endowed with all these attributes, the son of Maharaj Nabhi became more powerful day after day. Due to this, the citizens, learned Brahmanas, demigods, and ministers wanted Rish,
Rishabdev.
Rishabdev to be appointed ruler of the earth. When the son of Maharaj Nabhi became visible, he evinced all good qualities described by the great poets, namely, a well built body with all the symptoms of the Godhead prowess, strength, beauty, name, fame, influence, and enthusiasm. When the father, Maharaj Nabhi, saw all these qualities, he thought his son to be the best of human beings or the supreme being. Therefore, he gave him the name Rishabha. Indra, the king of heaven, who is very materially opulent, became envious of King Rishabhadev. Consequently, he stopped pouring water on the planet known as Bharatvarsha. At that time, the Supreme Lord Rishabhadev, the master of all mystic power, understood King Indra's purpose and smiled a little. Then, by his own prowess, through Yoga Maya, his internal potency, he profusely poured water upon. Hello?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Can you still hear me, Prabhu?
Yes, Noel.
Sorry, I lost connection for some reason. Then, by his own prowess, through Yoga Maya, his internal potency, he profusely poured water upon his own place, which was known as Ajanabha.
Do you want to continue to verse 5?
Due
Text
to
4.
getting a perfect son according to his desire, King Nabhi was always overwhelmed with transcendental bliss and was very affectionate to his son. It was with ecstasy and faltering voice that he addressed him, my dear son, my darling. This mentality was brought about by Yogamaya, whereby he accepted the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Father, and his own son. Out of his supreme goodwill, the Lord became his son and dealt with everyone as if he were an ordinary human being. Thus King Nabhi began to raise his transcendental son with great affection, and he was overwhelmed with transcendental bliss, joy, and devotion. King Nabhi understood that his son Rishabhadev was very popular among the citizens and among government officers and ministers. Understanding the popularity of his son, Maharaj Nabhi enthroned him as the emperor of the world to give protection to the general populace in terms of the Vedic religious system. To do this, he entrusted him into the hands of learned Brahmanas who would guide him in administrating the government. Then Maharaj Nabhi and his wife Meru Devi went to Badri Kashram in the Himalaya mountains. where the king engaged himself very expertly in austerities and penances with great jubilation. In full samadhi, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Naranarayan, who is Krishna in his plenary expansion. By doing so, in course of time, Maharaj Nabhi was elevated to the spiritual world known as Vaikuntha. O Maharaj Parikshit, to glorify Maharaj Nabhi, the old sages composed two verses. One of them is this: who can attain the perfection of Maharaj Nabhi? Who can attain his activities? Because of his devotional service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead agreed to become his son. The second prayer is this: who is better worshipper of Brahmanas than Maharaj Nabhi? Because he worshipped the qualified Brahmanas to their full satisfaction. The Brahmanas, by their Brahminical prowess, showed Maharaj Nabhi the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, in person. After Nabhi Maharaj departed for Badrika Ashrama, the Supreme Lord Rishabhadev understood that his kingdom was his field of activities. He therefore showed himself as an example and taught the duties of a householder by first accepting brahmacharya under the direction of spiritual masters. He also went to live at the spiritual master's place, Gurukul. After his education was finished, he gave gifts, Guru Dakshina, to his spiritual masters and then accepted the life of a householder. He took a wife named Jayanti and begot 100 sons, who were as powerful and qualified as he himself. His wife Jayanti had been offered to him by Indra, the king of heaven. Rishabdev and Jayanti performed householder life in an exemplary way, carrying out ritualistic activities ordained by the Shruti and Smriti Shastra. Of Rishabdev's 100 sons, the eldest, named Bharata, was a great exalted devotee qualified with the best attributes. In his honor, this planet has become known as Bharatvarsha. Following Bharata, where there were 99 other sons. Among these were 9 elderly sons named Kushavrata, Iravat, Brahmavarta, Malayu, Ketu, Bhadrasena, Indraspar, Vidarbha, and Kikatha.
Thank you very much, Mother.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Krishna, Prabhu, do you want to continue?
Yeah, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
All right.
In addition to these sons were Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabuddha, Pipalyana, Avirhotra, Drumila, Kamasa, Karabhajana. They were all very exalted, advanced devotees and authorized preachers of Srimad Bhagavatam. These devotees were glorified due to their strong devotion to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they were very exalted. To satisfy the mind perfectly, I, Sukadev Goswami, shall hereafter describe the characteristics of these 9 devotees when I discuss the conversation between Narada and Vasudeva. In addition to these 19 sons mentioned above, there were 81 younger ones, all born of Rishabdev and Jayanti. According to the order of their father, they became well-cultured, well-behaved, very pure in their activities, and expert in Vedic knowledge and the performance of Vedic rituals. Thus, they all became perfectly qualified Brahmanas. Being an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabdev was fully independent because his form was spiritual, eternal, and full of transcendental bliss. He eternally had nothing to do with the 4 principles of material misery: birth, death, old age, and disease. Nor was he materially attached. He was always equipoised, and he saw everyone on the same level. He was unhappy to see others unhappy, and he was well-wisher of all living entities. Although he was a perfect personality, the Supreme Lord and the controller of all, he nonetheless acted as if he were an ordinary conditioned soul. Therefore, he strictly followed the principles of Varnashrama Dharma and acted accordingly. In due course of time, the principles of Varnashrama Dharma had become neglected. Therefore, through his personal characteristics and behavior, he taught the ignorant public how to perform duties within the Varnashrama Dharma. In this way, he regulated the general populace in householder life, enabling them to develop religion and economic well being and to attain reputations. Sons and daughters, sorry, to attain reputations, sons and daughters, material pleasure, and finally eternal life. By his instructions, he showed how people could remain householders and at the same time become perfect by following the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Whatever the action is performed by a great man, common men follow. Although Lord Rishabdev knew everything about confidential Vedic knowledge, which includes information about all types of occupational duties, he still maintained himself as a Kshatriya and followed the instructions of the Brahmanas as they related to mind control, sense control, tolerance, and so forth. Thus, he ruled the people according to the system of Varnashrama Dharma, which enjoins that Brahmanas instruct the Kshatriyas and the Kshatriyas administer the state through Vaishyas and Shudras. Lord Rishabdev performed all kinds of sacrifices 100 times according to the instructions of the Vedic literatures. Thus, he satisfied Lord Vishnu in every respect. All the rituals were enriched by first-class ingredients. They were executed in holy places according to the proper time by priests who were all young and faithful. In this way, Lord Vishnu was worshipped and the prasada was offered to all the demigods. Thus, the functions and festivals were all successful. No one likes to possess anything. No one likes to possess anything that is like a willow wisp or a flower in the sky. For everyone knows very well that such things do not exist. Lord Rishabdev ruled this planet Bharatavarsha. Even common men did not want to ask for anything at any time or by any means. No one ever asks for a will-o-wisp. In, in other words, everyone was completely satisfied, and therefore there was no chance of anyone's asking for anything. The people were absorbed in great affection for the king. Since the affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. Once, while touring the world, Lord Rishabdev, the Supreme Lord, reached a place known as Brahmavarta. There was a great conference of learned Brahmanas at that place, and all the king's sons attentively heard the instructions of the Brahmanas there. At that assembly, within the hearing of the citizens, Rishabdev instructed his sons, although they were already very well behaved, devoted, and qualified, he instructed them so that in the future they could rule the world very perfectly. Thus he spoke as follows. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Jagannath, Prabhu, how much time do we have?
So we can go on till 10, Prabhu, typically. So
And it's right now 9 o'clock.
just one sec, Prabhu. So Ritu, Nindar, how? Yes, Prabhu, go ahead. Sorry, can
So,
you repeat that question?
so about an hour, is there like going to save some time at the end for any announcements, anything else?
Yeah, announcements won't take much time, but
Okay.
so yeah, you can go on, Prabhu. No worries. It's totally
Okay.
fine.
Well, so how long we go really depends on all of us. I have like few seeds for reflection, which might spark some discussion. But it's really up to all of us how much we want to discuss, how much time we want to spend on different sections. What I've done is I've gone through the verses and prepared some seeds of inspiration that struck me, and that might inspire others to at least reflect and maybe some questions to discuss further.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's
Perfect. Yeah.
switch to these slides. Okay. Is the full text visible or is part of it covered by this Zoom thing? I'm wondering if the Zoom thing only on my screen or is it actually being projected?
No, it's only on your screen. We can see the
Okay.
entire screen, like the entire slide.
Perfect. Okay, so let's begin. I think that the overall theme that I have for what came out for me from this chapter. So, first of all, to set context, Canto 5, this is of the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is discussing the topic of sthanam, which is basically defining boundaries of what is what, where is what. And I see a lot of emphasis on Varnashrama Dharma in general. What are the duties? How should one act in this world? Um, and I think to some degree later on in the canto on yoga. So corresponding to chapters 4 and 5 of Bhagavad Gita. Though in this particular chapter, there's also we see a lot of correspondence to chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. In fact, there's this quite a uh, good correspondence between things in third chapter of Bhagavad Gita and what's discussed here, or some of the things discussed here. So, in the specific context for this section, this is preparing the ground for the instructions of Rishabdev, chapter 5, very famous chapter of this canto. So it's preparing us for who Rishabdev is, establishing his divinity as the supreme personality of Godhead. Um, um, and his perfect execution of varnashrama is the perfect execution of varnashrama duties by his parents and how they took timely sannyas and what that was like. So it's preparing us to who Rishabh is and hearing from him. That said, the way I was going about it, I'm not. Um, so with that as a background, we can discuss some individual things that come up in this chapter. Uh, may have to adjust this so that the whole thing. Okay. Okay. So text 1 and 2. I think Prabhupada here focuses a lot. So the format of the slides will be there will be first a quote from either the purport or the translation of the text. Then some things that it inspired in me. That's like these 2 points in between. And then finally, some questions for reflection slash discussion. We've not had to discuss these questions. What I'm thinking is, for each slide, I'll talk about what inspired me, pose these questions primarily for reflection, and wait for a few minutes for us to think about this, reflect on this. If you want, you can write your responses to this reflection questions. And if something comes up and inspires you, you can share with all of us, or some questions come, we can discuss those questions. So, from text 1 and 2 in the purport, Prabhupada says an incarnation of God has to be accepted by experienced people and by the symptoms described in the Shastras. An incarnation is not accepted simply by the adulation of foolish people. And just let me think on what's the criteria for identifying bona fide authority? Is it by popular opinion, who is generally accepted? We often have a lot of discussion on how to identify bona fide spiritual master. Though in this particular chapter, it's about identifying who is the supreme personality of Godhead, which is different. But there is a to me there is this underlying common principle of what's the basis of faith. And there's a very nice discussion on two kinds of Shraddha. One is Laukika Shraddha, or think of this as the faith that is engendered by the social circumstances that we are in, by the people we are around, and so on. There is some faith that comes just from that. And the other is Shastriya Shraddha, or scriptural faith. Um, this is a big topic, so I think text one and two. I was just posing this. We may not want to spend too much time on this. If we want, we can come back to this, because this is something I'm still often thinking, wondering about, learning about, and it can take a whole thing. But the some questions for reflection. If we reflect in our life, how do we uh, personally, what's the criteria we use for placing our faith especially in spiritual authorities? What is to be applied? That we have. What are the tests we even, intellectually have from the scriptures, and how are we actually applying those tests and seeing in light and lenses of those tests? Um, where have we investing our faith, and on what basis? So I'll wait a couple of minutes for people to think about this, and then if there are any thoughts, discussions, we can discuss a little bit. Else, I'll move on. Oh no, so many hands. Nitya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I don't know if anybody else wants to go first. So, yeah. Um,
Let's hear from you,
so,
Mataji.
yeah, okay. So from my personal experience itself, so I had been, to any spiritual, uh, guru or a guru like a Mata, there are both genders of guru who visits and a certain place, and then they give some lectures. I was so instantly drawn to attending those lectures in the past, and then I did not even for a second wait to see if they are actually for real, bona fide or not. I just took it for granted that they are bona fide, and I never even questioned their lineage or because they come with some kind of a popularity or some following or judged by the huge crowd that we attend and go to. Oh, if they're all doing it, there is no question at all, right? And later on, uh, when I was in Seattle and I happened to talk to His Grace Sarivilas Prabhu, actually he's Maharaj now. So he told me that the can the simple thing that what Prabhupada said is, can they lift the Govardhan hill? Can they do things that Krishna did, right? Um, can they did those wonderful things? It's not like stealing butter or anything, but lifting Govardhan hill on the left pinky, right? Or doing something like something that inhumane, like nobody, no human can do. Can they do like those things? Um, then you can say that is how you distinguish. Then I was thinking about this certain spiritual leaders in India itself themselves. They actually manifested things out of thin air. We all know those stories, right? We all know heard about those. It's not stories actually. He did that in the public eye. Um, uh, they used to manifest shivlings or some ashes and stuff just from a flick of their palm. So I was wondering, okay, so what about these people, right? So so then the answer I got was they've developed some siddhis, um, whereby they could manifest few things, but it's not like then they cannot be equated to Krishna, or they cannot be because all these people who have come, they are actually are saying that they are God, right? They are so that is a definite falsity, because a true spiritual master would be a servant of coming in that lineage or parampara. So first one to identify is that if there is a parampara or the lineage by which they come in. The second thing is whether they consider themselves to be equal to and into God, and in the sense that they can become God, or they merge to God, and things like that. There are different aspects to it. Um, so, or they are saying that it's like a Dvaitam or Advaitam. Even in that, people can get a little bit confused. But just to simply put, whether they want to become God or they want to serve God. So those two clear delineation. So when those who serve God are the true masters in that lineage, um, then in that sense, if you just think about that sense, then it's clear about the Dvaitam and the Advaitam. Advaitam means you merge to God, you become God somehow, eventually, something like that. Whereas that is Advaitam, and then Dvaitam is there is a duality. So our soul is different from the super soul, the God, and we are always eternally, our relationship is eternal servitorship with that of the Lord. um yeah, and then we move on to, okay, even if such a guru comes and claims that they are a guru, um then how do we know that they are still the followers? That's where everything kind of gets, I mean, these two lineations can filter out a majority of um uh you know uh, people out there from the bona fide to a non-bona fide category. But after this category, then it becomes a little bit difficult to delineate. There are so many Babajis. If you go to Vrindavan, there are so many Babajis who are all, saintly people. So how do we consider uh, their um, their authority, as a bona fide? Those are the things that get kind of muddled up, because there are obviously two paths. One is, you know, um, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, where you do a discipline of sadhana, and then these are for common people like me, who doesn't have spontaneous devotion in my mind. So we have to develop practice, everyday practice, to somehow, sometime, some lifetime attain to that spontaneous, or maybe even in this, it's a parallel thing where we can just um, progressively attain the 9 steps of bhakti. And yeah, so I guess I don't know. I feel like this is where my train of thought goes, so I'll just stop right here.
So, Bhadik, can I maybe
Yes, please.
say that what you're effectively saying is that as you read scriptures, you develop an understanding of the principles, like Dvaita, Advaita, about us being a servant of God versus being one with God. And as those understandings and those faiths develop in those principles, as it becomes clear the nature of reality, as our understanding of scripture increases, you're able to apply those tests and rule out, or if this person is what he's saying is not aligned with our scriptural principles, what our acharyas have taught, what Vedas are saying, and therefore you can rule them out. Okay, now this cannot be bona fide. Now, we may not understand all the scriptures. To the degree that we understand the scriptures, we may be able to identify some people as not aligning with them. And as our scriptural understanding increases,
Right.
goes deeper, maybe we can also then get a more fine-tuned understanding about some who may not be able to distinguish right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Spiritual and scriptural understanding, and also um, maybe listening from authorities both ways. I mean, yeah, I guess you can say reading and hearing. Yeah, sure.
Yes.
I guess
Thanks.
it's all like understanding. Yeah. Yes, bro. Yes, it's a nice.
Excellent. Prabhu.
That's all. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think mine is a little bit similar. It's a subset of what Mataji said. So the terms that I had always heard before I got introduced to Krishna consciousness was Shrotriya and Brahmanishta. So Shrotriya is somebody who is well versed in all the scriptures, Shruti, and Brahmanishta is one who is established in the Brahman. So that means he's a complete he's complete faith in the Lord. You can take it that way. So that was my basic understanding. One of the things that you know Krishna consciousness added to this was the importance of a lineage and the importance of being part of a disciplic succession. So somebody who's heard this from a bona fide guru uh, is can has the potential to become a guru. I'm not saying that everybody may not become a guru, but they have a potential to become a guru. And so I just decided. So in my mind, I've just added it to the definition of how to look for a guru. I just thought I'll share my thoughts there, Prabhu.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Another weird thing about this, as I was hearing both of you, is once we have identified a bona fide spiritual master, placed our faith in them, then in the light of his teachings, we can see everything else and find things which are aligned and which further strengthens our understanding and clarity versus something which is not aligned. We may not either understand how it is true or may not be helpful at the moment because it seems it's based on this dependence on parampara. Jagannath, true.
Yeah, just a very small thing to add. Very nice answers by both Nitya Mataji and Krishnan Prabhu. So I had heard this analogy. This question was asked once in Bhakti Center during a talk. How to find a guru, how to find who is a bona fide guru, right? Basically, the question was in terms of how to find your guru. So the speaker that time, he mentioned a very interesting analogy. He said, let's say you want to buy gold. Now you don't have any idea how gold is, but you want to buy gold. You have heard somewhere that gold is very valuable and you should buy gold. This you've heard and you want to buy gold. But you don't really know anything about gold. Now, if you don't know anything about gold, before buying gold, you've got to understand few things about gold. How does gold look? How does gold feel? How does it shine? And things, basic things. So similarly, this speaker, he was mentioning that when we want to find a guru, yes, we do need some preliminary understanding of what a guru really is, and that is given by Shastra. So it's like a circular kind of thing, like who is a guru? Shastras tell us. And what does the guru do? He teaches us Shastra in turn. So it's like a kind of, yeah, it comes back to Shastra like that. So yeah, like initially some amount of knowledge is needed, like that Krishnan Prabhu quoted Tad Vijnanartham Sagurum Eva Bhigachet Samit Pani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. So this is like that, yeah, okay, what is gold? Gold looks like this. What is Guru? Guru looks, Shrotriyam knows the scriptures and is able to convince others of its truths. and Brahmanishtam, completely dedicated to the service of God. And I totally agree with what Mataji mentioned about, a point after which it gets a little subjective, not little, a lot, very subjective, like very muddied. Like you don't really understand. And I guess there it comes down to our heart. Where does our heart feel like that? So one example I was thinking is when these initial devotees who met Prabhupada in 26 Second Avenue, and even before that, Bowery and everywhere, they did not have this preliminary knowledge at all, right? Still, they saw something in Prabhupada. Still, they felt that, like one thing Rukmini Mataji mentions, and which is famously quoted, there was no gap between what Prabhupada spoke and how Prabhupada lived. It was very much similar, right? Which is a very, very difficult thing to achieve, actually. So that feeling is also there. So did these young American boys and girls, did they know Shastra? Did they know Shamit Pani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam? I doubt whether they knew it. But then when they saw Prabhupada, they had that feeling in the heart. Yes, this is the person we want to surrender to. So that feeling of the heart coming in is also there, that emotion. But again, when we go into emotion, I know that's a Pandora's box. Uh, I don't want to get into that discussion. But yeah, that factor is also there. We feel it, coming from deep within, that this is the person I need to surrender to. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I've heard the example in reference to diamonds. How do you identify a diamond? If you don't know what diamond is, you'll be cheated and given broken glass. So you have to be able to distinguish. But yes, very nice. Yes, this is a big topic, and I want to, unless there's something burning, I want to move forward because there's a lot that can be said here. Just some reference that I found useful in related things. There's a very nice Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's podcast with Radhika Raman Prabhu. Does Shabda make Pratyaksha invalid? So if you search for this, I found this discussion very helpful. The role of Shabda, the role of Pratyaksha, what when there is some apparent conflicts between them. I don't want to spend much time on this, but I think it's a useful thing to think about. A time when what was scripturally true clashed with what felt experientially true, and how did you navigate it, or maybe still navigating it. If we think about, we'll find some things which scripture says and doesn't match our experience. How do we deal with that? Let me move on. I think the next one is this my favorite section from this chapter. When I read that purport, it was very, very pacifying. So here, Indra, the king of heaven, who is very materially opulent, become envious of the Rishabdev, and consequently stop pouring water on the planet known as Bharatvarsh. So sometimes people who are in very influential positions, who have a lot of effect on other people's life, act in ways which is, very heartless. Last week, we saw a lot of that. We saw, Israel bombing Iran. We saw troops being sent to LA. We see immigration. We see this war in Gaza, in Ukraine-Israel conflict. We see environmental degradation. We see the mental health epidemic. We see the growing disparity between rich and poor. It seems like the world is burning, and the people who are in leadership positions are like it's just too disturbing. And how do we respond to that? What is our responsibility when in the midst of all this, especially as a devotee? So this is a question for reflection. When facing a chaotic world, do we become cynical or more determined? What is the duty of a spiritual practitioner? in such times. So again, I'll wait for a minute for us to just reflect upon this, think about this, um, and then if something flames up, inspires, we can discuss. Yes, Jagannath Prabhu.
So again, just a quick thing. So Radhanath Maharaj was mentioning in a class a kind of spiritual conundrum in one sense, because on one hand we say that a Vaishnava is paradukha dukhi. So when a Vaishnava sees others suffering, the Vaishnava also suffers. The Vaishnava feels disappointed by seeing others' disappointment, right? Or he experiences that pain. On the other hand, it is also said that a Vaishnava is actually always happy. So then how is this? And then we see in the world that there is so much misery, as you mentioned very rightly, the contemporary miseries that are going on, war, disaster, environmental stuff. So many things are going on. People are suffering like anything. Now, if we were to take the paradukha dukhi angle, only the paradukha dukhi angle, then we'll just suffer and suffer. Wouldn't be any end to the suffering. Right. So then Maharaj was mentioning that it's a very delicate balance and it requires a lot of expertise to do that. So yeah, it's like a spiritual conundrum, which I found really interesting. On one hand, we say paradukha dukhi. On the other hand, we say that, chant and be happy. Prabhupada says, be happy. But in any case, so one thing I guess which is often spoken about is prayer in such situations. We can pray for those who are suffering. And one thing I feel is when these things don't directly impact us, the quality of our prayers, the quality of what we do is not that. I mean, yeah, we do feel bad to an extent that, yeah, these things are happening. We can't do anything about it. But at the same time, there is a sense of, okay, I am not being impacted by it, right? So that gratitude is there. Now, I don't even know if that gratitude is correct or not. Well, thank you, Lord. I'm not suffering. These other people are suffering. I don't know if that is gratitude even in a genuine way. But in any case, that feeling is also there with that, unless we directly are impacted by these things, it's tough for us to, at least me, to feelingly pray, right? But then I guess two things. Prayer is the thing that feelingly praying to the Lord for these people so that they can come closer to Him even through these, sufferings. And then to whatever extent we can do something practical. Now that will differ based on individuals. So to whatever extent we can, doing something practical. And
Yeah.
Prabhupada had also written that, giving fearlessness to others is the greatest charity. He actually writes in one place, giving fearlessness to others is the greatest charity. which is we often hear Krishna consciousness is the greatest charity. They are related. How does one become fearless? That is through Krishna consciousness. So that factor is there. We can try to help the world in that way by outreach and sharing Krishna.
Thank you. Let me actually go to the next slide before we take Krishna Prabhu, because it's related. It's both on the text three itself. It's kind of what Prabhupada says. I think if we have time, maybe we can come back to this third verse and read the purport for this verse. It's very beautiful purport. I have quoted one line from this purport, but I think the whole purport is very nice, especially the last section is very, very practical and relevant. In this age of Kali, there is great scarcity and ignorance. Nonetheless, everyone can perform Sankirtan Yajna. So even though Indra was not giving rains, Rishabh Dev, he stepped in and he provided the rains. Um, um, Prabhupada spends a lot of time discussing in this verse on how is the responsibility for the duty for everyone in this age to perform yajna. That's a system that the Lord has set up for us to live happily in this world, materially have a comfortable life, and then go back to Godhead. Again, third chapter Bhagavad Gita, same idea. Um, so, question of reflection: have you experienced shelter or support in the midst of institutional or societal failure? How did spiritual practice help? Krishna Prabhu, I hope you still
Yeah,
inspired to
yes,
speak.
yes. I am. I actually heard a class by Gaur Gopal Das. This was on Aapki Adalat, which is a TV program that he came on. It's in Hindi. I'll post the link. It's a very nice. So he says in there that the world suffers not only because of the violence by bad people, but it suffers more because of the silence of good people. And so that was, that whole sentence made me think a lot, and I've been reflecting on it since. So, and you also, I heard it just today, this class, and then you posed the same question, and I think this, the question of experiencing shelter and support, um, sometimes, we have this feeling of despair, which is also probably what Arjuna felt. And Arjuna and the Pandavas felt that they were being they were facing unfairness, and then they stood up to it, but they always did it seeking the shelter of Krishna. And I think maybe that's the only thing that we can do at this point of time, because none of us, at least I'm not as skilled or as talented as Arjuna. So I guess I can take the other thing that Arjuna did, which is seeking the shelter of Krishna at this point of time.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And what Prabhupada says, we can all do Sankirtan. The Prabhupada says every evening we can have chanting of the holy names, get together, chant the holy names, and that changes environment. That melts the envy, that softens the heart of ourselves and it changes the vibration of the place itself, change the vibration of the planet as devotees do that. The purity they do that. That is what was really encouraging for me from this purport. Is there's something we can do. It was really quite helpless, but this purport was so encouraging that
and I learned one more thing. Today I was helping my mother clear out some videos from her phone. So there was one pastor's video which was forwarded on her phone, and I just happened to listen to it. And he said that if you pray, uh, on behalf of someone else, then it actually has an impact on them. So So even if somebody is suffering or something, or somebody is not being really nice, but if you still pray for them, they it does have a positive impact on them.
Yeah.
So that's something we could do also.
Yeah. So you remind me of this book, Healing Prayers by Maharaj. Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj. It's a very nice book. Anybody else? Okay, let's move forward. Text 4. In the translation, there's a line. Due to getting a perfect son according to his desire, King Nabi was always overwhelmed with transcendental bliss and was very affectionate to his son. It was with ecstasy and a faltering voice that he addressed him, my dear son, my darling. Bhagavatam, somebody was in one class I was hearing, Bhagavatam is like a orchestra. It goes and it develops over this 10th canto. And 10th canto, when it reaches this crescendo of the topic of Ashraya, when one feels that shelter in the Supreme Lord in the form of Krishna, and the very intimate relationship of the devotees with Krishna. However, we get glimpses of that throughout Bhagavatam. And even in this fifth canto, in the middle of this chapter, there is this very beautiful, taste of that, the spirit of 10th canto, how King Nabhi was feeling this very strong parental affection with Krishna. And it reminded me of, this thing, my dear son, my darling, of a class I was hearing from Father Govind Maharaj. And he asked the question, who is Krishna? And he said, when I ask who is Krishna, people say, you may say that he is the Supreme Personality of God. And he say, yes, he is the Supreme Personality of God, but who is Krishna to you? It's like if we ask Gaur Kumar Prabhu, who is Radha Kripa? And he will not say she's a girl. She is my daughter. Yes, she is a girl, that's true, but for him, she is my daughter. Uh, just like that, Mother Yashoda, to her, Krishna is not just, a boy or the personality of God. It's his son. And he was saying that we need that. If, who is Krishna to you? What is your relationship with Krishna? Another way to think about it is, who do you call mine? Or who do you consider to be yours? Um, and when we invest that possessiveness, that mamatva, in Krishna, um, it was just very beautiful when I was hearing this class. So that's what was inspiring for me from this. I don't have anything else for reflection other than just this question. Who is Krishna to you, and what do you call mine? Whom do we consider ours? It'll take maybe 30, 40 seconds for us to just think about that. We don't have to answer any question. Just reflect on this. We can move forward. However, if some question comes or if some inspiration comes, please do share. Okay, let's move on. So text 5 to 15. This is where I find this repeated theme across the canto on exemplary what varnashrama looks like, what doing one's duties look like, um, not running away from one's duties, similar to what's happening in Bhagavad Gita in third, fifth chapter. Krishna says, better to do one's duties properly, how important it is to do the yajna, purify oneself, um, and we see this repeatedly in this canto. We've already seen this in the first four chapters, and we'll see this again later on in this canto. And in these verses, we find a lot of descriptions which seem to resonate with that theme of doing one's duties, renouncing in time, and there's this nice discussion on embracing austerity. Um, this principle of retiring timely. I was hearing from Jayadvaita Maharaj, who's saying that in our society, ISKCON, we have of the four ashramas, one ashrama is kind of uh, conspicuous by its absence. It's the Varnashrama, devotees retiring, and he's returning. At least I don't know if this book is published yet, but it was about to come out on Varnashrama based on Prabhupada's teachings and the role that they can play, the important role they have um, for the movement and for the society. And their discussion in this section of what kind of a joyous uh, um, renunciation King Nabi and his wife Jayanti. No, Jayanti is Rishabh's wife. I forget Nabi's wife's name. Um, have in as they retire after perfectly executing their responsibilities as a king, as parents, um, and we'll see the same thing come up again in I think both chapter 5 and chapter 6 in this canto. Um, there's also a description of King Rishabdev's 100 sons. If there's time at the end, I have like a flowchart where we can go through that. It's kind of important. And the question for reflection, why is it so hard to leave comfort when the scripture says it's time? What makes austerities feel welcome versus forced? I'll start the timer for maybe half a minute or so, and then we can go to the next section, unless there are something people want to share here. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Text 16 in the purport, Prabhupada says,
Actually,
although
Prabhu, before we go here, the thing before, the question that you posed before, what makes austerity feel welcome versus forced? I was
yes,
just thinking about it. Could it be, is it right to say that the differentiating factor is our intensity of faith in the result of the austerity? Like, if our faith is very intense in what we are achieving, like what we are getting because of doing that austerity,
Mhm.
then the austerity won't feel so forced, right?
Mhm.
So that is just something that I wanted to share on that.
Yeah, yeah, that's a beautiful point because it's something I've been thinking about. I was having a discussion with somebody on what I call willpower versus faith. If you want to take a cold bath, often the sense is that it depends on my strength of willpower. If I have a strong enough willpower, then I can go ahead and do so. And I was
Yeah.
wondering, yes, that's true, but I think you don't need as much willpower if you have strong faith in the principle of taking a cold bath. And it's not exactly work well there. Actually, the faith is not in the principle of taking cold bath. Later on, I realize it. I have a faith in a higher principle. I want to, let's say, uh, for a devotee, it may be that I want my relationship with the Lord. I want to um, become free from this bodily conception, and taking a cold bath is really helpful for me to do that. So his faith is in Krishna. And on the strength of that faith, if he connects this austerity with that faith, it becomes welcome because this is going to help him come closer to Krishna. Now it's not so much willpower. There's a force that brings you closer to it. So it's that's how I was thinking about it. It if that faith is weak, and I'm just think I have some sense that it is good for me, but I have to take it like a medicine because I have to do it. I should do it. Then if I'm relying too much on my willpower, um, yeah, that's that seems more like suppression rather than inspired.
Yeah, that's perfect, Prabhu. You put it very perfectly. Like, I'm just taking the medicine because it is supposed to be taken. Yeah, that's how austerity feels like, at least to me. But yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, thank you. Faith versus the willpower. Yeah.
And okay, let's go ahead. So this was beautiful. Text 16, the Prabhupada says, although Rishabdev knew all the Vedic instructions perfectly well, he nonetheless followed the instructions of the Brahmanas in order to perfectly maintain the social order. And I was thinking, the sometimes we're attending a class, and uh, at least for me, it has happened. Or it so happens I'm attending a class, and I feel like I know this thing which is being discussed. I know what is going to be said because I've heard it before, and heard it so many times before. Um, and I was reading this in Rishabh that he knew everything, but still he was like so eagerly hearing and paying respectful attention, and it's not just out of etiquette that is doing it. Um, there's some class I was hearing which led me to this. Um, there is a certain, and I think that's why I was posing this question. I want to explore this more. Um, how can we stay teachable while being experienced or knowledgeable? So I'll shut up for a couple of minutes, and it will be wonderful to hear from others. Hare Krishna, welcome, Ashram.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So it's a very brilliant question. So I was just listening to a class recently where the difference between wisdom and knowledge was presented very well with a simple example. So the knowledge is when, I'll give you the example. So knowing that a tomato is a fruit is knowledge, but wisdom is knowing that you should not put the tomato in a fruit salad. So uh, I'll repeat again. So the example is that knowing that tomato is a fruit is knowledge, but knowing that you cannot put the tomato in a fruit salad is wisdom. So basically, when you say, can we listen even when we already know? So many times we know many things, but how deeply do we know it? That is why, if you see in Srila Prabhupada's purports, apparently it might appear that Prabhupada mentions the same things again and again and again. But why he's doing that is to reiterate many times so that we go deeper, so that the knowledge doesn't just change, doesn't just stay as knowledge, but actually becomes deep wisdom. So that is my 2 cents, Prabhu.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I don't know if I've heard it from where I've heard it from, but is it somewhere I've heard, or maybe I'm imagining it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. That sometimes Radhanath Maharaj likes to hear the classes, being given in Radha Gopinath Mandir, either with a speaker in his room or maybe outside and not coming in and then hearing it. Or Prabhupada will hear his disciples speak with great relish. They're like,
Yes.
they obviously know everything, but still they're like so uh, happy to hear.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, yeah. Vishnu Prabhu wants to say something.
You're right. Even recently I've heard in classes that Prabhupada would ask his disciples to read the Krishna book, and he would relish the books. And on a separate note, not related to this, but more about the books being changed controversies, Prabhupada's books being changed controversy. I heard that Prabhupada, while listening to his own books, he would hear some mistakes, and he would also say, "Oh, obviously that should get corrected," because the early editions had some mistakes, which because of the transcription mistakes or whatever, and then he would ask them to be, corrected. So, but he would sit and listen to these books, and there are, I've read it in many books, including the books by Chasing the Rhino book, and other books also that Prabhupada, Prabhupada would ask for these books to be read to him, and these were
Yeah,
his own books.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems that the mood is it's like a parent when he hears a child speak, the child is blabbering. It's still beautiful to hear. It's very satisfying to hear because there is that relationship, and when these devotees have that relationship with Krishna, they like to hear about Krishna. Uh, Even though they know everything, it's still so relishable mm, to hear about him. Whoever speaks in whatever way he speaks about Krishna, as long as it's not mixed in with Mayavad or those conceptions that can completely spoil it. But maybe that is part of it. There is also a sense of that this is pleasing to the Lord, as you're hearing. This is a devotional activity, and I think that's the spirit I'm kind of trying to tap into or struggling with is how to not make it an intellectual activity and make it a devotional activity. It seems the mood is very different when you're hearing as one of the 9 processes of devotional service where you like I wonder even in Bhagavatam, sometimes it seems that the person is asking the question it's not necessarily that they don't know the answer. This areas, they um, they kind of know that they're really interested in Krishna. They're hearing about Krishna. Um, so anyway, if that inspired or changed anything, let's go. We have just two more decks left. Oh. Okay, one very surprising thing which I saw in the purport. Sometimes you find his hidden treasures in Prabhupada's purports. He said that the word Brahma means perfect knowledge of all activities. Um, and this is so useful because this word Brahma comes many places, and this is the first time I'm reading this definition of Brahma, perfect knowledge of all activities. Krishna Prabhu, one definition of bona fide guru, what was it? Brahmanishtam, right? Maybe you can look at that word also in light of this meaning. I mean, it can mean other things also, but um, I find this definition very, very interesting and useful. There's also Athatha Brahma Jigyasa, takes a little different meaning. Sense when you see the light of this particular definition that Prabhupada gives here. So I just wanted to highlight that reflection question there. 17. This was very surprising. I was I'm completely surprised by this. The purport Prabhupada says the ritual should be performed by young men, even boys, at a tender age, in order for the ritual to be performed successfully. Completely out of the left field for me. I looked at some of the other translations from other commentators on Bhagavatam, and they all concur with because the word in the Sanskrit word in the text actually doesn't say young; it says age, at the right age, and Prabhupada translated it as the young age. And another commentator also says age because it has to be young age. It has the sacrifice has to be done by the youth. Uh, so I don't know if anybody has seen this before or have any insights or anything to add here. Some reflection questions though is you know, like this one. What are the consequences of deferring in our work? That's something to reflect upon uh, for me at least. Uh, it seems so easy to say, we'll do it later, or we always have time for doing it. But actually, these youth is really helpful for spiritual life, contrary to common conceptions. Uh, So a reflection question, what spiritual disciplines do you wish you had started earlier in life? I think probably a better reflection question is what inner work are we deferring that we want to you know, not procrastinate any further? I'll move on unless there is any comments or any uh, thoughts on this idea of rituals being performed by the youth.
I think this is I'll just chime in there just to save time. I think it's a fantastic idea. Typically Upanayana is done at the age of 7 or 11, before the age of 11. And, introducing children to rituals, can be made a fun activity. and if it becomes fun and they derive joy from it and they enjoy doing it with their parents, then they might, it won't be a chore, as they grow up. So, they'll just enjoy doing it. I think it's a phenomenal idea. I wish I had read this, 15, 20 years ago.
Okay. Thank you, bro. The last one, we're out of time. I'll just quickly go through this. Jagannath Prabhu.
Sorry, Prabhu. I've been a little distracted with Prithu, but on the previous point, just one quick thing. What are the consequences of deferring inner work? The very well-known consequence, or rather simple to imagine consequence, is that our heaps of anarthas get built up more and more. And then when we do realize that it's time to work on our inner selves, then it is all the more difficult now because we've, put those layers of anarthas over and over. So that is one definite consequence of deferring inner work. And yeah, what spiritual disciplines do you wish you had started earlier in life? Yeah, definitely all these things that we do, like chanting and everything, I would definitely would want to have done this before. Um, the the so there are two quick cases, right? One is we did not have access to these disciplines, and so we didn't do it. Well, that you can't help it. But then having access to this culture, yet choosing not to do, that is like really that is the regret that I have sometimes. But again, it is better late than never. So whatever I started, I got connected to Krishna consciousness in the current form that I'm practicing when I was like 18, 19 years old, around that age. But then in till that age, whatever nonsense I did, that created a lot of impressions. So now that I have to, scale those. So that's there. Yeah, just wanted to share that much.
Yeah, thank you. I was not thinking in terms of impressions, so that's a very good point. Younger you are, more impressionable one is, and that makes a huge difference. What kind of, if you're not creating these impressions, you're getting different impressions. That becomes more difficult to erase. Thank you. Last section, hopefully somebody who has not spoken yet will feel finally inspired to contribute. The people were absorbing great affection for the king. Since this affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. This I feel is such a central principle. And affection as shelter, when there is real love, that protects us from exploitation. We're not attracted to those will of the wisp of flower in the sky, things that are unreal, with seeking shelter in seeking false shelters, basically. And in this, I think Prabhupada's focusing on how the role of leadership or leader society is to, I mean, not exactly, I'm kind of putting a certain angle to this. He talks more about how the leaders have to provide all the facilities for their dependents. He doesn't use the word dependents, but for the people whom he's leading, so that they are protected. From a spiritual perspective, I was seeing that it's creating a shelter for them. I think it also resonates with what's going to come later in the 5th chapter, where Shradev talks about how one should not become a guru or a guru na siyasat, sojano na sasyat, and so on, unless one can, protect the dependents. And when I see some resonance with, the example he's setting in his own life, in his own praja, to those instructions later on. So question for reflection. Have you experienced a relationship where you felt so nourishing that cravings fell away? How can we create this for others in our communities? I'm sure every one of us have some experience of this.
Yes, Prabhu, I agree with you. Especially when we do something with an intent of pleasing someone in a genuine way, then it does help. Krishna blesses us with that, you know, detachments from our cravings, and they kind of yeah, and it's in that moment we won't realize it, but when we look back, then we, oh wow, despite loving that thing so much, I still was able to stay away. Um, yeah. And yeah, I think the second question, how can we create this for others in the community? It's just investing, I believe. If we are able to invest nicely in people. Now, Radhanath Maharaj was sharing recently that it doesn't matter, something to the tune of, it's not about the numbers. Even if we are able to positively impact one person, that is good enough. Even if you are able to positively impact one person and completely, selflessly nourish them, then that is good. We don't have to like thousands and thousands and lakhs of people. It doesn't, not everyone can do it, and not everyone has to do it also. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for pointing this, that actually caring for others is a very effective way of becoming dear to the Lord, because that's, yeah, I was thinking in that direction. Yes, we care for others. Krishna is so happy to see that. And, spiritual master is so happy to see that we are cooperating, um, trying to care for others. Thank you very much. We are over time. Jagannath Prabhu, over to you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. No, this was a really wonderful discussion, and very pertinent questions you posed, and which made us think very nicely. And thank you for going through the purports in such a lot of detail. So yeah, it was very nourishing. I felt very good. Although I was a little distracted, I was like, uh, okay. Yeah, although I was a little distracted in between, I was still, thinking about the questions that you were putting.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was wonderful. Because of that, I am reading Bhagavatam. Otherwise, I don't.
Thank you so much, Manan Prabhu. As Jagannath Gopal Prabhu was saying, I really liked this new format of putting one sentence or something from the purport or the verse and then making us reflect. This is wonderful. How did you get this idea? Is this something that you have practiced, or is that how you read Bhagavatam?
No, I think by attending these classes only, I got that sense. This is what seems people are doing. I mean, they're not prepared the slides like that, but seems people are, I think this is the format. It seems that you have created of creating this way of having a discussion for posing thoughtful questions. And I mean, it just felt natural as I was reading through this. Some things popped out for me. So some questions from those.
Wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Any announcements,
Thank you.
Prabhu?
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the class.
Thank you for the participation. I think
Uh,
everybody's falling off. You have any announcements?
yeah, I don't have any announcements, Prabhu. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
take care, everyone. Vanchakalpatarubhesha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anant Prabhu ki jai. Thank you, Prabhu. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.